Hello and welcome back to episode 7 of the New Troop Podcast. My name is Caitlin. I am your fearless troop leader. And this space is for anybody that is looking to feel better in their body and is just craving a home and a soft place to land. So I'm glad that you've stumbled across us and I'm so glad you're here. Today, officially, as we listen to this, marks my 10-year work anniversary. I started my company April of 2016. And today I want to take some time and look back at what the last 10 years was, and kind of talk through everything that's happened. I haven't ever done this and I'm just feeling like we need to celebrate. 10 years is a fucking milestone. And I honestly can't believe I made it 10 years. I'm feeling very eternally grateful and hopeful and thankful. And it's been really fun kind of shifting business, like the way that I'm running my company over the last couple of months and years. And I just want to take a look back at where we started. So let's get into it. So ironically, let's go all the way back to college because it matters. I thought I was going to be a special ed teacher. Literally. I went to school. I went to a junior college. I played basketball through college. I went 4 years. I played at a junior college and then at a 4-year. And I got my liberal arts AA at the JUCO I was at. And then I went and transferred to a business school, Menlo College, both in California, both very small schools. But I transferred to a business college and I ended up graduating with my business degree, which, I mean, in hindsight, was really helpful. But I was going to school because I wanted to get into the credential program and become a special ed teacher. My mom was a special ed teacher. I volunteered since I was 11 or 12. I worked through college as a special ed aide. And I just thought that that's what my life was going to be. And after I graduated, essentially, I didn't get into a single credential program. I applied to a lot of them. I didn't get into one, which was a little shocking. I was a 4.0 academic All-American. I don't know what I could have done different, essentially, to get into these programs. What I didn't know at the time was that I had missed a prereq in my junior college days. There was one class that I didn't have, so I didn't meet the pre-required credits to get into the credential programs. And I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason. I'm so thankful now that I don't work in education, not because it's not a great place for people to work. I just, knowing who I am now and how neurospicy I am, I just don't think it would have been a good fit for me. So everything happens for a reason. But what that led to was graduating college and not having a plan. My parents were like, well, we helped pay for your school. They paid for my college education. And they helped support me. I did have jobs and stuff, but I also played basketball. So I was very busy during college. And so I kind of left and felt amiss. I just felt like I was wandering. And they basically were like, you can come home, but we're done paying. So figure it out. What that actually led to was I ended up with 4 different jobs. I was part of a catering crew. I worked at the original Gordon Biersch in Palo Alto. I worked at a place called Stacks. And then my 4th job was actually working at Stanford in their athletic department to set their events up. So essentially any competition sport, there is event staff that has to set up and take down all of that, everything from the gates to, those the metal things, crowd control metal things. During gymnastics meets, you have to move the entire gymnastics setup from their gym to the auditorium, the Coliseum, where basketball is played. It all has to get set up. And so that was what we did. And I don't think I realized that you could work in sports. I just never, I played sports. It never crossed my mind that you could get a job working in the field of athletics. And it ended up leading to starting to apply for professional teams working as a sales rep for their tickets. I didn't know it was even an option. In hindsight, I kind of wish I had gone the marketing route, but marketing is really hard to get into, especially if you're not a marketing major and interned with these companies, because there's really a very small marketing team for every team. Whereas sales, there's a bunch of sales reps. So I ended up starting to go to these they were job fairs I was applying on Teamwork Online. I was applying at a bunch of different places. Well, I got a couple interviews. I ended up interviewing with the Giants, with the Kings up in Sacramento, and the LA Clippers. And it was eye-opening, A, but B, what I realized was like, I think I could be really good at this. I know basketball. Obviously, I played it through college. I'm very into sports. And I thought, like, let me just shoot my shot. I ended up getting the job with the Clippers, which was so cool at the time. Like, I was just like, let's go, let's fucking go. So at the time I was living in Palo Alto, and they were like, well, you got the job, but it starts on whatever. It was like a couple of weeks. I was like, fuck. So I packed up my entire life, everything that could fit in my car. And I pretty much sold what didn't. And I drove down to LA. I lived on my cousin's couch, and I lived out of my car. I'm not kidding. I had everything set up like in my, the bed of my, or the, I don't know, not the bed, the trunk of my car was like open baskets of my clothes. So like my closet was in my trunk. My shoes were in one bin. I had like a hanging rack in my back seat. So all my clothes lived in my car with me. I had like my little breakfast thing in the front in a basket, and I would like get to work and park in the parking deck and like make my sandwich. Either way, it was wild. It was a wild time. I ended up finding an apartment and roommates, and it was really a cool situation. But that was in 2011. So the essentially inside sales job that I have, they give you kind of like a timeline. Like you can't just go and be an inside sales rep. You either stay with a team and get promoted, or they help you find other locations. And so what ended up happening was the NBA lockout happened at the end of 2011. Sorry. I had interviewed for a position above me, like a full-time position. And it was between me and one other girl. Well, she was at the like very tail end of her time. So they either had to promote her or let her go. And she was really good. So like that wasn't really an option. So I lost out on the promotion to this girl. I believe her name was Alex. And it ended up being fine because the NBA lockout happened. And we went from like making $8 an hour, but living on our commission, which was fine, to making $8 an hour and no commission because our players weren't working. There was no games. And so we were not getting paid out commission, even if you sold something, because there was no games. So I think I was there about a year. Oh, I think it was like 11 months, something like that. And I was kind of anxious to like get on with it and get going because, you know, LA for a lot of people is amazing. I did not love LA. Not because LA isn't amazing. It just wasn't for me. I hated the traffic. The way our building was set up, like our parking deck was almost a mile from the actual like place we worked. And you know, like I could walk home almost faster than I could drive home. So there was days where like I would take public transit down to the office, and then I would just like bring my workout clothes and I would either run or walk home. I just hated it. It was not for me. We were also working incredibly weird hours. So like you would get there, you would start making calls. You would make like 165 calls a day, and you had these like little headsets on, and like you just never hung the phone up. So you would dial. If somebody picked up, you'd try and sell them season tickets. Most of the time they slammed the phone in your face because it was the Clippers in a Lakers market. And it just was like not a good thing. So I ended up getting a referral from my head of sales to the new head of sales. They had worked at a minor league baseball team together prior to the job that they were both in now. And I got referred out to the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Well, Myrtle Beach is in South Carolina. And I was in Los Angeles. And I was so geographically challenged that I didn't know that Myrtle Beach was on the East Coast. I thought it was in the Gulf. Genuinely, I thought it was in Florida. So like when I went to drive out here, the first time I realized it wasn't in the Gulf was when I put it into my GPS to drive across the country. Like, I know it's embarrassing, but I moved there and didn't have a place to stay, didn't really like think through it all. Either way, I was just going. So I pick up my life, did the same thing, sold everything that didn't fit in my car. I fit everything that could fit in my car, clothes. I ended up picking up my brother, I think in San Diego. But the only spot in the car that was available was the front seat and this little spot in the back that he could like slide a bag. So ended up driving across country. I started on Halloween, with the Pelicans, and I worked in sports for another, I think 5 years, 2016. So I was there October of 2011 to, April of 2016. I was kind of the same thing. It was like phone sales. It was much more hands-on. It was season tickets. It was mini plans. It was flex books. Ended up being corporate sponsorships, which is what I ended with. And they were a fine company to work for. It was like super stressful. You work every single game. You're responsible, especially like in minor league baseball, they just don't have a big staff. So like you're responsible to pull the tarp on and off the field. And, like you wear a million hats all the time because the staff is just not that big. And so, it was a very stressful job. On top of that, my dad died like right in the middle of it. So my dad died in September of 2012. And, ironically, right before he died, my company at the time was sending me out it was like a sales conference of some sort. Was it the meetings? I don't remember. But I had like gotten a spot at this really cool thing that they were sending me to. And it was in California. And I was like, cool, I'll go home and see my family. I was going to drive up and see my dad in Humboldt County. And we were like, well, what if Rogan comes, my brother? At the time we had a relationship, we don't anymore. But at the time we were both going to be in Humboldt County. So me and my dad were like, let's plan a family photo shoot for the three of us. It has been a long time. We hadn't had professional photos done since I was little. And we had just scheduled our family shoot. And I found out 2 weeks before I was supposed to get there, or a week and a half before I was supposed to get there, that he died. I don't mean to laugh. Like, I just don't know how else to talk about it because it's just like, it was such a gut punch. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I was just going to be there. Either way. So, and it's not funny, but I don't know how to talk about it without feeling sad. I'm already a sad girl today, so we're not going to do that. But, so he died and we just scheduled this family photo shoot. And I had this I was like angry about it. I was angry because it just felt like shit was taken from me and I didn't have any control and I lost out on these photos and these memories and what the fuck was I going to do with the rest of my life? Who was going to walk me down the aisle? Like, it was just like such a mind fuck. So my company gave me time off, obviously, and I go out for the services and do all of that. And we ended up cremating him. And this is all relevant, I promise. You're just like, okay, overshare, I hear you. So we have the services, we do all the things. And then we just didn't really know what to do, like with him, like with his ashes. And so we just put them in my bedroom at my mother's house and he sat there for a year. And a year later, it was like a year and a half later, I went home again and we decided to spread his ashes. And I felt like it was just a very pivotal moment. And so what I ended up doing was I bought my first like semi-pro camera when we spread his ashes. And that was the first time I used it. My parents had me at 4 taking like film photos. They gave me my first like point and shoot flat camera at 4 years old we were at the zoo. Everything's like from knee height. It's the cutest thing ever. So I've always been the person with the camera. I've always been the person who, like in college, I always had the camera for the nights out. So I've just always had a camera and I've always been interested in photography. I took film in high school. My family is obsessed with photos. We have tens of thousands of photos that my mom scanned in of all of our childhood and everything. Like, I've always been obsessed with photos. And, so when we spread his ashes, I had taken a little bit of his life insurance money and went to Costco. And at the time it was a Canon, Mark D30. It was a DSLR. It came with like 2 lenses. And I ended up buying like a nifty 50 and something else. And so we go out to California. We do this whole, like, my brother comes up, we do this whole picnic, and like we took him up to their ranch. My mom and him got married on this beautiful ranch that they lived on. And so we took him up there because like that was the happiest memory that like we have for him. And it's just beautiful, like precipice. It looks all the way out to the ocean on a really sunny, clear day. I mean, you can't see the ocean, but like you feel like you're on top of the world, and we're right on the coast. So it just feels like you can like see as far as the eye can see. And we spread him under this beautiful tree. But as we were sitting there, this like beautiful butterfly comes over and it's just hanging around, and I'm taking photos, and, we put his box like out in the little area, and I was just like, I don't know. It was just such an epiphany of like, oh my gosh, it is so important to have photos. It's so important to have these memories, to have this time, to be able to capture this moment and relive it, right? Because that's what photography is. And so I just decided then and there that I was like going to start pursuing photography. So I carried my camera everywhere while I was working with the Pelicans. This was 2013 at the time. I was in corporate sales. And so when we have sponsors that buy certain things, we have to do like activation photos. So the sponsorship, whatever it is, whether it's like t-shirts at the gate or billboards, or they have a theme night or whatever, you have to have activation photos, because when you go to sell them again the next year, you have to have proof and deliverables of the sponsorship the year before. Either way. So we had a photographer that did all the stuff on the field, and he did a lot of the activation photos, but like it always felt like we needed more. So I just started carrying my camera around, and I would take those photos. I would take crowd reaction shots. I just always had my camera around my shoulder. And so I would go and meet with clients, and, my camera would be banging and clanging around. I didn't care. I just took it everywhere. And in 2016, there was just some shit that happened, and new general manager and all sorts of weirdness, a new boss above me and all sorts of weirdness. And we ended up parting ways. It is what it is. I'm not going to go into depth there. I ended up essentially getting let go with no notice. Like, today's the day. Bye. My severance package covered my health insurance for a month, and they back paid all of the commission that they weren't going to pay me, which is how everything happened. Like, I essentially sold all year, and they decided to not pay me commission. And we had to have a conversation about it. Right. And so, they ended up giving me back pay for what they owed and the month of essentially health insurance. And I was like, well, fuck, what do I do? It was the start of the season. Like, we were because today's opening day, I think. So it was the start of the season. Like, other teams aren't hiring. Nothing happens till the winter meetings, which is forever from then. And transitioning sports is hard. Like, going from baseball to another sport is pretty hard. And I just was like, well, what am I going to do? And so I realized I had all this camera gear that I had bought over the last 3 years. And I knew how to use a camera, and I knew how to sell, and I knew how to market, and I had a business degree. And I thought, well, fuck a duck. I might as well try. I owned my house in Myrtle Beach. My mortgage was like $700. Like, it was kind of perfect, right? It's never perfect to start a business if you don't have other income. But I thought, let me just try. And so 2016, I launched Cali Clicks. Cali, Kali, Clicks with a K, because I was super cool. And Cali is ironically what me and my mom call each other. Like, so Cali, Kali, is me and my mom's first 2 initials put together. I'm from California. I just thought it was cute. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So CaliClicks started in 2016, and CaliClicks was essentially like family portraiture, real estate, headshots, weddings, events. Trying to think what else. I did a lot of like free work for the boards I was on. So it was just kind of like classical everything photographer. I did a couple of the wedding showcases. I did a bunch of weddings. Real estate was like my big money maker. And I had a couple of like really big properties that I would do real estate listings for like timeshares and hotels. So, it was fine. I was making money, and I was making money. I wasn't really making money. I was breaking even, essentially. I bought a website, and I figured out what I needed and started an LLC. And I was like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. So 2016, got a part-time waitressing job, and was just trying to make it work. And I had the Sunday scaries every single time I had to go shoot a wedding, or every single time I had to go shoot a family. I like dreaded it. I hated it. Towards the end, I started hating real estate photography. Real estate agents are a different breed, and they were really not easy to work for. And I ended up getting kind of freaked out because I had one client that would send me to these houses, and they were usually vacant. And they would never meet me there. They would just tell me the code to the lockbox. I would go take the photos and then deliver them. They would very rarely ever show up. They were always in the fucking middle of nowhere. And I was shooting this vacant house, and I just had such a skeezy, awful vibe about it. And I turn around, and somebody was standing in the living room. It was a man. And apparently it was the homeowner. Freaked me out to no end. And then right after that, I fell super fucking hard at another house listing on ice. After I was told that everything was like salted, and they had been out there and cleared the property of ice earlier, because I essentially like, I would postpone if the weather was bad, because outside you want like good photos. So just wasn't really paying attention. And I ended up falling really, really, really fucking hard and breaking a piece of equipment. And I thought, this doesn't set my soul on fire. Like, what is happening? At the same time, I was doing a bunch of like headshots and branding photos, and weddings and things like that. And it didn't matter, man, woman, young, old, almost every single shoot, somebody in whatever situation I was in was like, oh, haha, you're going to make me look younger, right? Oh, haha, you're going to make me look 40 pounds less. Everything just felt like, oh my God, it was so heavy. Nobody felt good in their body ever. And it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter. People were struggling. And all I could think was, there has got to be something that we can do. Like, we are documenting people's lives, and people are missing opportunities with their families, with their loved ones, because they're terrified to get in front of the lens. Like, there's got to be a place for it. So started doing some research, started kind of looking around at other photography, like niches, and I stumbled into boudoir. And boudoir felt like a home for me. Like, I would talk about it and get excited. I did a bunch of model calls. People would leave, and I would just be like on a high. It was like the best feeling ever. And it felt like I was actually making a difference. And it felt like it wasn't just mom, dad, and 2 kids on a beach in July in khaki pants and white shirts and not really like wanting to be there. It felt like people wanted to be there. It felt like people were like actually changing the projection of their life through these photos, because it just felt so good. And I know that like essentially we can help change people's projection in life. How fucking cool is that? I know it sounds silly, but it's like, it's more than just a photo. And my thought was, if we can help somebody feel this good without clothes on, can you imagine how they're going to get in front of the lens now? Like, they're actually going to go out and do family photos, because if you can tackle this, you can literally do anything, right? And so end of 2017 we ended up I was shooting a wedding was that at the end? It had to have been. Either way, shooting a wedding in Australia. And I just realized that like I needed to make a change. I needed to create a space that allowed for people to feel good in their body and like celebrate all that they are. And I started Caitlin Scott in honor of my dad. My dad's name was Scott. I started Caitlin Scott in 2017. Mostly because people are like, why didn't you put them together? Well, you can't put butts and babies in the same news feed. In the South, it's like boudoir is like super taboo. It's less taboo now, but at the time it was like, you do what? You take naked photos for a living? Oh my God. Like it was very jarring for people. So I kept them separate and I had essentially two different companies. I had CaliClicks and then I had Caitlin Scott. And CaliClicks was operable until essentially November of 2020 was my last wedding because I was booked out. I couldn't just like shut down shop. So I still did families. I still did weddings. And the families and real estate and headshots all ended in 2018. And then I had weddings obviously booked until 2020. But I went full-time boudoir at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and really started to like lean into my own selfies, getting in front of my own lens. I went to a couple of conferences and then educational workshops, all very boudoir specific. Started networking with other people that were doing boudoir at the time. And it just felt like home. Like I was so excited. So what I ended up doing was at the time I was in a 3-bed, 2-bath house or 1.5 bath house in Myrtle Beach that I owned. But it had 2 living rooms and a spare bedroom. And so what I ended up doing was I converted my spare bedroom and my second living room to a studio. And so I worked out of my home in Myrtle Beach. And then my office was in the middle. So I had like converted my entire house, living room, spare bedroom into a boudoir studio. I went as far as like, I built a surround for a shower outdoors that I was going to use as well. I ended up in that time moving from Myrtle Beach to Denver, Colorado. That's a story for a different day, but I ended up taking a job with Delta as a Ready Reserve agent. The people that like take your bags at check-in, that was me. And I had a little like scatterbrain moment where I just had to be done with Myrtle Beach. I couldn't stay there anymore. And I needed to go yesterday. So I love Denver. I'm a big Denver Broncos fan. I've always loved Denver. So flew out, had the interview, got the job, and I was like, bye. So back across the country I go. And I was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at the airport. And if you know anything about Denver, you know how far out the airport is from downtown. And so I spent a lot of time commuting, and because Denver is a not very, traffic friendly city, a lot of the times people weren't willing to commute during the week. So like I could only offer shoots Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I just wasn't getting clients, like genuinely wasn't getting clients. I ran model calls, I rented studios, and I just wasn't getting clientele. And I hit a low there that I didn't think I was going to recover from. I was $75,000 in debt. I was sad. I was broke. I was angry. I was getting screamed at on the weekends and then desperately trying to find work on the weekdays. And it genuinely felt like I had lost an arm, like I couldn't breathe because I didn't have photography. It just felt like such a loss to me. And it felt like I was a sea turtle just baking in the sun. Like something felt so wrong. All I wanted to do was get back to it. And at the time, one of my friends from the Pelicans had taken a job at NC State, and we worked together. She was our marketing girl, and she needed somebody to do like the activation photos for NC State football. She's like, hey, if you can get back here, I've got a job for you. I was like, say less. I ended up breaking my lease in Denver. I just moved there. My sweet mom had like packed up my whole house in Myrtle Beach, done a whole yard sale. Like it was a whole thing. She had just tackled all of that. I had just moved. We had just gotten set up, and I decided to pick up my life and move again. I moved out in December of 2018. I moved home April 4th, 2019. I was there not even 5 months. I ended up having to unpack. I hired movers this time. Mom kind of disowned me in this process, rightfully so. She was very angry. I hired movers because I didn't have any help to pack a U-Haul, a 6x12 U-Haul, to tow behind my Tahoe. And they were terrible. They were so bad and didn't even fit everything in. I ended up having to leave a bunch of stuff behind. And then I get on the road and the trailer is packed so poorly that they put all the weight behind the wheels, like the wheel well. And it about pulled my Tahoe off the road going 55 miles an hour. It about whipped me off the freeway. It was so bad. I made it one exit on the freeway, called U-Haul, said, I hired movers through you based on your recommendation. They charged me and I have to unpack this entire trailer and repack it. So I get off the next exit from where I lived, which was a Bass Pro parking lot. And I had to unload a 6x12 foot trailer by myself. We're talking like sectional sofa, a king size mattress, bed frames, storage shelving. Oh God, what else was in there? Like my stools, a desk, my entire computer setup. I was spread out all over the parking lot. People were driving by like I was having a yard sale. Like it was so embarrassing. I think I broke my finger. It started to snow in the middle of this as I'm trying to get everything reloaded. They had pushed the mattress in like on the top. Well, it was so wedged that I couldn't get it down from the ceiling. Like it was stuck at the top. And I got the front kind of wedged down and I had to like jump in between the trailer and this fucking bed and like jump on it to get it down. I get the sectional back in. I ended up leaving coffee tables in the parking lot. Like it was a disaster. So I get back in, keep going. And I kid you not, I think I made it like another hour and a half. I really do think I broke a finger in the process. And stopped and crashed for the night. I was exhausted. I picked back up, got all the way to Raleigh, and I had rented a 2-bedroom apartment. At the time, didn't need the second bedroom, but I was able to set up my photography studio essentially in my second bedroom. Ironically, at the same time, because once I realized I was moving, I had started to SEO my website so that it all was for Raleigh and North Carolina and, size inclusive, gender inclusive, kind of all the things that I do, right? Like just trying to find my people. And because of that, there was a reality TV show from Denmark that had found me because they were hosting essentially it was called Fat Camp. There is a person that ran Fat Camp, and it was in just outside of Asheville. And this company found me as a boudoir photographer based on all of the SEO I had done while I was in Denver. And they call me as I'm on the way from Denver here. And it started with an email and it was like, this probably is going to sound like spam. We're not, we're legitimate. They gave me all their credentials. We found your website because we're doing this reality TV show. And one of the segments on this show, we want to end the show essentially with a boudoir shoot, because what they were trying to like document was there was like 6 or 7 influencers that had come out from Denmark and they were going to Fat Camp and they wanted to see like what the progression was from start to finish and if they could feel better in their bodies. And because Fat Camp is like essentially a plus size camp for people to come and like live out their summer camp dreams, but not in like a let's lose weight way, in like a let's celebrate our body way. So it was just like it was such a cool concept. But they had these influencers come out and they were like, we really want you to come and do the photos for this last segment. And I was like, okay, like that's the coolest shit ever. I love it. So I ended up getting the job. It was so cool. And because of that, the actual camp founder, hired me then for Fat Camp, which they were separate. There was like the filming portion and then there was actual Fat Camp. But because I was there for the show, she also hired me to do the camp as well. And what ended up happening was I just had such good exposure because she had so many incredible influencers there and people that have become like really good friends. One of my best friends in life, that's where we met. And it ended up just being like such a fucking cool experience because I met amazing people and it just sort of like catapulted me into the space that I was so craving, a space with, the ability for people to like enjoy their body and not feel like it's wrong or not good enough or anything like that. And so it just was this beautiful, again, there are no mistakes, like this beautiful kind of tumultuous way to get there. And so, ended up really kind of kicking my company off. And so like I said, I was running out of my house, out of my apartment. And, I had this just notion of like, okay, I think it's time to really start looking for a studio and really figure out like, is this what I want? And what ended up happening was I was part of a women's networking group and I called my friend and basically said like, hey, you kind of know everybody. Do you know a real estate agent? She goes, actually, yeah, I do. They do commercial and leasing and stuff like that. Why don't I put you in contact? The lady calls me. And I'm explaining what I want and like, it needs to be semi-private. I would love for it to be, really good natural light. Ideally it has a bathroom with a shower. These things really, maybe a kitchen. It just felt like it was a very specific niche, not even niche, very specific need, for a studio. And the lady goes, are you really? I said, yeah. I mean, I know it's probably going to be really hard to find. She goes, I actually have a space that I think is going to be amazing for you. It has everything that you just asked for. It used to be an art studio. It's on the second floor. It's kind of centrally located. It's in North Raleigh. It's right between 540 and 440. Can you come and look at it today? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so that was 2019. I think it was September or October of 2019 when I first looked at it. And I walked in and I was like, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. Don't act like you like it the way that you like it. We stood there for like 2.5 hours talking about the space, talking about the owner. She let me go and get my camera and come back. I did some test shots. It is perfect. It was perfect, literally. I had beautiful skylights, which I ended up covering because it's just too much light. Like there's just too much light in the space. It had a middle room for my office. It had a full bathroom. It has a full kitchen. It was perfect. And I was like, okay, so like what's next? She goes, do you have any commercial leasing history? And I said, no, I've never leased a space before. And, I was telling her like what I'm shooting. And she goes, we're going to have to like sell you to Ray. Ray's my landlord. He's amazing. I love Ray. But she was like, we're going to have to try and sell you because you have no history. He's going to have to like be willing to take a chance on you and you shoot boudoir. Like it's kind of a long shot, but let's try it. Sweet Ray. He's just such a good man. I said, so why don't I do this? Why don't I pay for 6 months up front? Because I had money set aside at this point. I had sold my house in Myrtle Beach. I had paid off the crazy amount of debt that I had occurred while I was desperately fucking around in Denver. And so I had a little bit of money set aside and I was like, well, let's do this. I'll write a letter, tell him who I am. I'll offer to pay 6 months in advance and maybe he'll take a chance on me. And she was like, cool. So he ended up wanting to meet. We came back to the studio, got to meet him. He was amazing. And he was like, yeah, actually, I think, based on, they had to do like was it a background check or something? They did a credit pull and something else. And he goes, based on everything that we see on our end and based on the 6 months up front, I'm 100% willing to lease this to you, but it's a 3-year lease. I was like, oh, fuck. What do you mean it's a 3-year lease? It's a 3-year lease. So as you know how the story goes, that was the end of 2019. Well, guess what happens? I signed my lease, December, because they had to do painting. There was construction that had to happen. So didn't sign my lease until December. Had my grand opening in February. And they promptly shut me down on St. Patty's Day. Like, done. No mas. We're done. At the time, there was a salon downstairs, like the second story in their duplexes. But we share a door. And because we share a door and because they were a salon, we had to go by the salon laws, like the closures for North Carolina. And so I was shut down from St. Patty's Day till July of that year. Talk about a gut check moment. But when we came out of that, literally from July to December, I had the biggest year to date that I had ever had. I sold like $105,000 in 6 months. And I think people were just like craving a space to feel good in their skin. But in order to keep the lights on and I had not sold my house yet because it was during the panini, the fucking pandemic, that I sold my house. That was July. Oh my God, I forgot about that. So, I then had a mortgage. I had studio rent. I had an apartment. I had no business, no money coming in. And I was trying not to panic. And that was when I started on TikTok. And I started doing virtual sessions from the couch, literally. And I was raising money for a women's shelter because I was in an abusive relationship in college and I just like couldn't fathom being stuck in a house during a pandemic with an abuser. And I thought, what can I do to help? And so I started offering essentially sessions where we get on a Zoom call or a FaceTime. I would direct them and then I would screenshot the screen and I would edit those photos. And like I was shooting people all over the country. But because I was on social media and I was on TikTok, it generated like some decent exposure, which was great. And so I raised my little $2,500 for this women's shelter. And then I thought, well, it's still essentially like, it was still the middle of the pandemic and I was still getting clients. So then it was like a tip what you want type of thing. And I'm not kidding. It kept the lights on. It kept the door open. And so from that, I had also started teaching people how to do sexy selfies at home. I did a whole series about doing spicy selfies. And so my TikTok kind of picked up too. Well, by the time I was able to open my business, I then had people from all over the country seeing my TikToks and that was blowing up, which was crazy. And it just like totally worked out. And I'm still in the same space. I'm still in the same studio. So, everything happens for a reason. Did it suck a little bit? Yeah. But like, it was also just really super cool that it happened the way that it did either way. And so from there, I did my 3 years, I renewed. And then, Ray is so amazing that he lets me go on a year-to-year basis. Now I've not had to sign another 3-year lease. He just lets me go on like a rolling basis. And then July of 2024, I had a bit of a midlife crisis. It was my birthday. I think I turned 35, 36. Yeah, because I'll turn 38 this year. So I had this like, oh fuck moment because my dad died at 56. And I was feeling like I only have 20 years left to live in my brain. Like I've worked through this now, but at the time it was like, oh my God, I only have, 20 years left to live. And I'm stuck doing the same thing every day at the same studio and my art is terrible. And I was just like super struggling and I was having terrible client experiences with people that were just like super abusive, and I somehow lost the plot on the people I was working with, and like my art wasn't singing to me. I didn't even like it anymore. And I was like, fuck, I have to go right now. So July of 2024, I decided I'm going to go for a year and travel around the United States. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I was on a call with my therapist at the time, and like, we have it recorded. I have to find that somewhere. But I was just like, oh, I was like, fuck, everything sucks. I hate my life. This doesn't feel right. And she did this like visualization thing. And I just envisioned me in a van traveling to my clients, because most of my clients travel to me. Like, very rarely are people from Raleigh. And so I was like, I'm going to take my art to them. Delusionally, had no idea what I was doing. Didn't have a van, didn't have a trailer, didn't really have a car that could tow a trailer. I didn't know any of this at the time, but I was going, and that was that. Told my mom, she about disowned me. I stood my ground. I said, I'm going regardless. Started looking at used trailers. I went up to the Pittsburgh or Hershey, PA RV show, which was really cool. I found that footage the other day. I'm going to have to put that together. But went to this RV show, was like hell bent. I'm like, I'll take a mortgage, or I'll take a loan to pay for this. And I was looking at, like the RV dealers locally. And, I was just leaving. I had seen a like used one, and my aunt and uncle called, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you getting into? I said, found this trailer I was looking at it, and ended up not being great. Not what I needed or wanted. And they were like, well, how can we help? And so my aunt and uncle gave me a loan for a trailer. Ended up not being a loan. Ended up just being a gift. At the time, I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be a loan. Ended up gifting me the money for this trailer that I found used from this amazing man. It's stunning. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going. And you know the rest of the story. Last year, I traveled to 40 different states, or 40 different cities all over the US and Canada, 29,000 miles. Worked with, I think it was 86 individuals. Had the time of my life. And yeah, that pretty much brings us to today. And as you listen to this, I'm on the way to Bali for a 20-day kind of soul reset, I shall say. And I've got just amazing shit happening. Retreats in October. I'm so excited about that. We're doing a Europe tour later this year. I'm going up into Maine and Bar Harbor, Maine this year, and Vermont later in September. And it's just magical. I've hosted 5, essentially this year will have been 5 retreats. Where, we travel with like-minded people to just help people feel better in their body. It's just been amazing. And I wouldn't trade any of that. And if my dad hadn't died in 2012, I wouldn't have ever gotten on this path. I wouldn't have ever known that this was a life that I could have. And so I say all that to say, sometimes, even when it feels so terrible and it's the worst thing that you could think ever to happen, sometimes there's silver lining in there. I'm not going to cry. Sometimes it takes losing a father to realize that life is super short, and you just have to try. You just have to do the things that scare you, because you never know what could happen. And you could look up 10 years from where you started and think, wow, if I hadn't bet on myself, if I hadn't jumped, if I hadn't tried, where would I be? Sure wouldn't be here. It sure wouldn't be on social media, impacting people's lives, teaching people how to do spicy selfies. It sure as shit wouldn't be in a studio in North Raleigh. It sure as shit wouldn't be in Ireland and Scotland in October. And Puerto Vallarta last year or 2 years ago, it wouldn't have been Canada last year. It wouldn't have been 29,000 miles driving all over the United States, getting the best gift I could have ever gotten with the last year of my dog's life, traveling with my mom. So you just never know. So thank you for going down memory lane with me there's some of that I forgot until I started talking about it. I wouldn't trade any ounce of my path for anything. I wouldn't trade 1 minute, one pivot, one hiccup, one bobble, one pothole. I wouldn't trade any of it because it got me here. And I'm so excited to see what the next 10 years brings. And I'm so excited to see where the Nood troop takes us and what this will look like in 2 months, 5 months, a year. Because I know in my heart of hearts that this is where I'm supposed to be. I was put on this planet to help people feel better in their body. I was put on the planet. I've gone through the things I've gone through. I've had the eating disorder. I've been in the abusive relationship. I have hated my body. And I know it's possible to get out of it all. I know it's possible to get to a point where you actually enjoy your body. And I know it's possible. And I know it because I've done it. And I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so thankful for you. And I cannot wait to see where the next 10 years goes. Okay? I love you. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week, okay? Mwah.